So once again, the reflections, the words that I'm going to offer in this reflection are a gift from those who put together the service this week, and so I acknowledge all who contributed to it, with the exception of a few local examples that I have inserted. Do you know what it is like to put every ounce of your ability and energy into something and have it flop miserably? Do you know what it is like to do your very best and it just isn't good enough? And do you know what it is like to wait for something good in your life to grow and wait and wait and wait? Well, that day, when Jesus was sitting on the boat in the middle of the sea, he was speaking to a worn-out, exhausted crowd that felt just like that. His followers had been working hard, really hard, to share the good news, but the message just wasn't sinking in. Here they were going from town to town, sharing Jesus' life-saving message that justice is attainable, that there are key values like kindness and generosity and compassion, that if we live them out collectively, they could save the world. Yet, despite their important message, everywhere they went, they brushed up against people who were too preoccupied, too bored, too self-centered, or too stressed out to be able to listen to the message. Each time a door slammed in their face, their discouragement ramped up. And it wasn't supposed to be like this. Even though Jesus was sitting in the middle of the sea, it's like he could see into the very hearts of those gathered that day. And in that calm, reassuring voice we imagine he had, he told them stories to help them understand themselves and make sense of their life. And one of those stories was the parable of the sower. Some seeds will fall on the path, and the birds will eat them. Some will fall on the rock, and the sun will scorch them. Some will fall on thorns and be choked out. But some will fall on good soil and bear an unbelievable crop. The parable of the sower of the seeds was a pep talk of sorts. It wasn't the kind you'd hear in a locker room, granted, but it wasn't a story of how great Jesus' followers were or how they would succeed at every turn if they just applied themselves to it. It was a pep talk that was realistic. Jesus told them, some of the work you're going to do is going to feel like a complete and total waste of time. And some of it is going to be sabotaged. But keep going, because there will be success. Trust me. So live out your mission. This, friends, is a millennia-old message we still need to hear today, especially on World Food Sunday. 690 million people. I'll say that again. 690 million people will go to bed hungry tonight. Think about that. 690 million people aren't asking, Steve, what's for supper? Instead, they're asking, when will I eat next? Will I eat tonight? And they ask that question night after night. Hunger is so pervasive, you might think that the whole earth is made of dust, that no crops could grow anywhere. But we know there's nothing wrong with Mother Nature. The problem lies in the choices that we make. Poverty, land grabbing, climate change, commodification and monopoly of food and water, conflict, political instability, corruption. The list goes on and on. And the causes of hunger are so complex and intertwined and so systemic, it's natural wonder how you or I are ever going to make a difference. It's like standing on that shore right along with Jesus' disciples, and their problems are as big as the ocean itself. And even Jesus is sitting there admitting that addressing hunger is not easy. He doesn't sugarcoat the outcome of our work. Some seeds just aren't going to land where we need them to, or the results aren't going to be what we want. But he says some seeds will fall on good soil, and the result will be phenomenal. So keep on living your mission. Jesus got in the boat that day and rowed out into the sea so he could look at the whole crowd at once, so that his voice would carry across the water to each and every one of them, so that they could take his parable to their hearts and hear him say, "Live your mission." Friends, one of the ways we live our mission as a united church is by sharing what we have through our collective mission and service. As a united church, we endorse principles of food sovereignty, the right of people to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and the right to define their own food and agricultural systems. We believe that food is a sacred gift from God, manna from heaven, and no one should go hungry. That's why, from coast to coast in Canada, our generosity supports community kitchens, meal programs, food cupboards, shelters, job training, community gardens, healthy food programs. Internationally, we send food in times of crisis, distribute seeds, fund agricultural training programs, micro-lending programs, and support projects that help small-scale farmers access equipment they need, and in some instances, even build infrastructure so they can transport their food to market. We work with partners like ACT Alliance and the Canadian ACT Alliance and the Canadian Food Grains Bank to move beyond the charity model by helping to work towards long-term systemic change through respectful partnerships. We also have concerned citizens that advocate for better use of our food waste through programs like Loop. This is their website. Has anybody ever heard of Loop? It's an organization that believes that food should be put to its highest and best use. They connect food wholesalers like grocery stores and restaurants and other places with retailers and producers to divert 100% of their unsaleable food away from the landfill and towards people and organizations in the community that can use it best. So things that a grocery store can't use can be diverted to charities that can make use of it and or offered to farmers who can feed it to their livestock. It's a really great program to help eliminate food going to our landfill. It's true, we aren't going to solve all the problems in the world, but for some people, our support, our creative thinking, our advocacy means the world. The United Church's Philanthropy Unit shared a story not long ago about a young Canadian named Jesse. When he was 12 years old, Jesse had a traumatic brain injury. His life instantly changed because his brain didn't function the way it once did. By the time he was 17, Jesse had been hospitalized 32 times. Through the ups and downs, his mother took care of him. She was his rock. And then sadly, 3 years ago, she died of cancer. Without his mother, Jesse's life spiraled out of control. 2 years ago, he survived the painfully cold winter sleeping in a storage unit. Then he went to Stella's Circle, a mission and service partner, where he was fed and received help to find a home, and is now completing a greenhouse technician college program. Today, Jesse is leading a new social enterprise that grows food for sale. This, friends, is what can happen when seeds of generosity fall on good soil. Another story of seeds of generosity falling on good soil is a work that a team of volunteers are doing in Tofield to feed the homeless in Edmonton. This journey started long ago when the local food bank was getting too much day-old bread from the local grocery store and requested some of it be given to another organization. It went to Busy Bee Bargains, who filtered it through various other places in the community that could make use of it. And when those venues and volunteers ran their season, as they do over years, Busy Bee found new ways to make use of this bread. Recently, someone asked if Busy Bee could help in her endeavor to feed the homeless in Edmonton. This found new purpose for the bread from IGA, as well as dented cans, eggs, and other items that cannot be sold. Riley Sausage was approached to supply a filling for sandwiches, and they have responded amazingly, providing boxes of sausage rings on a weekly basis. As word has spread, so has this project. There are now multiple volunteers that help prep items twice a week. The dented cans are often turned into homemade soup, the bread and sausages into sandwiches, eggs are hard-boiled, sweets and snacks are added as available, and they deliver anywhere from 80 to 200 lunches twice a week to Edmonton. This is a post that was shared just for this week on Facebook. 192 buns with ham and mustard, 60 individually wrapped sweets, 20 bags of little bags of crackers, 12 bags of cut up ham pieces, and 15 personal kits. Some warm jackets and boots and blankets. So that's what they took up on Tuesday. Volunteers that deliver the food in Edmonton often hear from those receiving that they have never been treated so well. 690 million people may be going hungry tonight, but thanks to mission and service partners, dedicated local volunteers, and generous donors, thousands of people will not be among them. This is what happens when we live our mission. Living God's mission is like planting seeds, and each seed contains the basic material needed to pull off a miracle. And like Jesus said, when they hit fertile soil, miracles grow phenomenally. Thank you for your mission and service. Thank you for taking Jesus' stories into your heart and letting them transform your lives. Thank you for standing on the shoreline like disciples have for millennia and listening to the parable of the sower. Now, let's get to work planting seeds. Let's live our mission, and let us work until all are fed. May it be so. Amen.